Let's look at comparing and contrasting two different non-fiction texts about the same topic but from different authors or sources in this case. We're going to look at Maurice Sendak on Pebble Go and his biography on Fact Monster. So let's kind of just read through each of them quickly and then compare and contrast them using a Venn diagram. Maurice Sendak is an award-winning illustrator of children's books. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1928. Maurice was often sick as a child. He watched kids play from his window. He drew pictures of them. And if I come over here, it talks about when he was born. It says 1928, but it doesn't say the month or the day. In this biography, it gives 10 June 1928. So it tells us when he born, also tells us when he died. And if we go through this, you'll find out that it doesn't tell us that he's dead. That could just be because it's pretty recent. It does say Brooklyn, New York. So if we're making a Venn diagram, I would start right there. He was born in, oh man, always go back to your sources. Make sure you spell things correctly. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. Both sources say that. Now, Pebble Go tells us actually, that should go in the middle. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1928. Fact Monster says he was born on June 10th. So it gives us a little more information here in regards to this. We can go back to the websites now. Let's keep reading through. Early life. Maurice continued to draw in high school. He then went to art school to learn more. He took jobs drawing comics. He made window displays for a toy store. In 1951, he illustrated his first book, The Wonderful Farm. Let's see what it says about that wonderful farm, or comics, or stores. Maurice Sendak wrote and drew Where the Wild Things Are, a children's book first published in 1963. He grew up in Brooklyn, the child of Polish immigrants, and worked as an illustrator of comics before getting work as an illustrator of author's book. After a brief stint at window decorator for toy store FAO Schwarz, Sendak turned to illustrating children's books full-time. So it talks about the window decorator and it talks about comics in both. So we can put that in the middle. He decorated windows and illustrated comics. Now let's look at the differences about that. This one says it was at FAO Schwarz, Fact Monster, whereas this just says a store. So Fact Monster is a little more detailed about this part, but Pebble Go tells us that his first book was The Wonderful Farm in 1951. So we come over here for Pebble Go. He illustrated The Wonderful Farm in 1951, and then just Fact Monster tells us FAO, let's check the spelling on that, SCHWARTZ at FAO Schwarz. So we have a couple things in each box. Let's keep comparing and contrasting. Life's work. Soon after Maurice started writing his own stories, his most famous book is Where the Wild Things Are. It's about a boy named Max and his imagination. Maurice won a Caldecott Medal in 1964 for the book's art. Talks about where the wild things are. Talks about that here too, in Fact Monster. An immediate critical success, his own creation, Where the Wild Things Are, initially caused some controversy and was not an immediate popular hit. It's the story of Max, a rambunctious boy who was sent to his room without dinner for shouting at his mother, "I'll eat you up." Concerned adults considered Max a bad role model and thought the drawings were too scary for younger children. Nonetheless, it became popular with children and parents alike over the years and has since sold millions of copies and been translated into more than a dozen languages. This is important because it talks about a controversy here, that people weren't sure if Where the Wild Things Are was a good book or not. It doesn't mention that at all on Pebble Go. So, on Fact Monster, it discusses the controversy over where the wild things are. But both of them mention that he wrote where the wild things are. As you can see, you can go through both articles, tear them apart, and find several things. Right now, I would say what's so great about Pebble Go, because it has the least unique information, but it does help like hammer home anything in common is always your best information, because you have two sources saying that it's true. But this helps to give some differences within the information, and really it all tends to agree, but Fact Monster is a little more detailed with certain facts. And we haven't even finished reading all the Pebble Go, but we are pretty close to being done with his Fact Monster article, which means we'll start to find things in Pebble Go that aren't in Fact Monster. And that is how you compare and contrast two nonfiction texts that are about the same subject but from different sources.